Have you noticed how silver has suddenly become one of the most talked about assets in the financial world? While many investors remain focused on stocks, interest rates, and economic uncertainty, a growing number of analysts believe silver could be preparing for a major move. The question is no longer whether silver will move, but how dramatic that move could be. Some experts believe silver is approaching a critical turning point that could surprise both investors and financial institutions alike. In today's video, we're going to examine the signals, the risks, and the opportunities that could define silver's next chapter. Stay with us until the end, because what is happening behind the scenes may be far more significant than most people realize.
For years, silver has occupied a unique position in the global economy. Unlike gold, which is primarily viewed as a store of value, silver serves two important functions. It is both a precious metal and an industrial metal. This means that silver's price is influenced not only by investor sentiment, but also by real-world demand from industries such as solar energy, electric vehicles, electronics, and advanced manufacturing. As the world becomes increasingly dependent on technology and renewable energy, silver's importance continues to grow.
Recently, several market indicators have begun flashing signals that deserve attention. One of the most important is the growing imbalance between supply and demand. Industrial demand for silver has increased significantly over the last few years, particularly as governments and corporations invest billions into green energy infrastructure. Solar panels require substantial amounts of silver due to its exceptional electrical conductivity. At the same time, electric vehicles contain more silver components than traditional cars. As these industries expand, silver consumption continues to rise. However, increasing demand is only part of the story. Supply growth has struggled to keep pace. Silver mining projects often take years to develop, and many mines face rising production costs. In some regions, environmental regulations and operational challenges have limited expansion efforts. The result is a market where demand growth may be outpacing available supply, creating conditions that could eventually place upward pressure on prices.
Another factor contributing to uncertainty is the global economic outlook. Around the world, investors are closely monitoring central banks and their interest rate policies. When interest rates rise, precious metals sometimes face pressure because investors can earn higher returns from interest-bearing assets. However, when economic growth slows or financial risks increase, investors often seek safe haven assets such as gold and silver. This creates an interesting dynamic where silver can benefit from both industrial demand and investment demand simultaneously. Inflation remains another major concern. Although inflation rates have moderated compared to previous peaks, many consumers continue to feel the impact of higher prices across essential goods and services. Historically, precious metals have often been viewed as a hedge against currency depreciation and inflation risks. If inflation proves more persistent than expected, silver could attract renewed interest from investors seeking protection against declining purchasing power. Yet perhaps the most intriguing development is occurring within the futures market. Large institutional investors closely monitor silver positioning because shifts in market sentiment can sometimes precede significant price movements. In recent months, analysts have observed unusual changes in trader positioning, suggesting that expectations regarding silver may be evolving. While no indicator guarantees future performance, these shifts often attract attention because they can reflect changing confidence among major market participants. Technical analysis also provides several interesting clues. Many chart analysts point to important resistance and support levels that have influenced silver's price action over recent years. Markets often experience periods of consolidation before major breakouts. During these phases, prices may appear relatively stable while underlying pressures gradually build. When a breakout eventually occurs, the resulting move can be surprisingly powerful. Some analysts believe silver may currently be entering such a phase, though opinions remain divided regarding the direction and magnitude of the next move. What makes silver especially fascinating is its historical tendency toward volatility. Unlike some assets that move gradually, silver can experience rapid price swings within relatively short periods. This volatility can create opportunities for investors, but it also introduces significant risk. History shows that silver rallies can attract widespread public attention very quickly, while corrections can be equally dramatic. Understanding this characteristic is essential for anyone following the market. Let's consider the broader geopolitical environment. Global trade tensions, regional conflicts, and economic uncertainty continue to influence financial markets. Whenever uncertainty increases, investors often reassess risk and seek assets that may provide diversification. Silver's dual role as both an industrial and precious metal means it can respond differently compared to traditional financial assets. This unique positioning makes it particularly sensitive to shifts in global sentiment. There is also growing discussion regarding the long-term impact of the energy transition. Governments across Europe and other regions have committed to ambitious renewable energy targets. Solar power installations continue expanding worldwide, and silver remains a critical component in photovoltaic technology. If renewable energy deployment accelerates further, silver demand could continue strengthening over the coming years. Some analysts believe this trend may represent one of the most significant structural drivers supporting silver's long-term outlook. At the same time, investors should remain aware of potential risks. Economic slowdowns can reduce industrial demand, particularly if manufacturing activity weakens. Stronger than expected economic growth could also influence central bank decisions and interest rate expectations. Currency movements, particularly those involving the US dollar, frequently affect precious metal prices as well. Because silver is globally traded, fluctuations in currency markets can have a meaningful impact on investor behavior. One scenario receiving increased attention is the possibility of a supply deficit becoming more pronounced. If industrial demand continues rising while mining output remains constrained, the gap between supply and demand could widen. Markets generally respond to persistent shortages by adjusting prices higher over time. While no outcome is guaranteed, many industry observers believe this is one of the most important trends to monitor moving forward. Interestingly, retail investor interest in silver appears to be growing once again. During previous market cycles, increased participation from individual investors often amplified price movements. Social media, online communities, and financial content creators have made market information more accessible than ever before. As awareness grows, silver could attract a broader audience seeking exposure to precious metals and industrial commodities. Some analysts even compare the current environment to previous periods when silver experienced major price advances. While historical comparisons should always be approached with caution, supporters of this view argue that today's combination of industrial demand, economic uncertainty, and supply challenges creates a potentially powerful setup. Critics, however, warn that markets rarely move in a straight line and that excessive optimism can lead to disappointment. Both perspectives highlight the importance of maintaining a balanced approach. One of the most important questions facing investors today is whether silver is undervalued relative to gold. The gold-to-silver ratio is a commonly used metric that compares the prices of the two metals. When the ratio reaches unusually high levels, some investors interpret this as a sign that silver may offer greater relative value. Although this measure is not a prediction tool, it remains a popular way to evaluate historical relationships between precious metals. As we look ahead, several upcoming developments could influence silver's trajectory. Economic data releases, inflation reports, central bank announcements, manufacturing activity indicators, and developments within the renewable energy sector will all play important roles. Markets often react quickly to new information, particularly when expectations shift unexpectedly. This means that silver's next major move could occur sooner than many investors anticipate. So what does all of this mean? The evidence suggests that silver is entering a period of heightened importance. Strong industrial demand, ongoing supply concerns, economic uncertainty, and evolving investor sentiment are creating conditions that deserve close attention. Whether silver ultimately experiences a powerful rally, a period of volatility, or a temporary setback, one thing is clear: the market is at a critical crossroads. The next move in silver may not simply affect precious metal investors. It could provide valuable insights into broader economic trends, inflation expectations, industrial growth, and global market sentiment. For that reason alone, silver has become one of the most closely watched assets in today's financial landscape. As always, no one can predict the future with certainty. Markets remain unpredictable, and every investment carries risk. However, when multiple powerful forces begin converging at the same time, investors pay attention. And right now, silver appears to be standing at the center of several important global trends. The coming weeks and months could prove decisive. If current patterns continue, silver's next move may indeed shock the entire market. The only question is whether investors will be prepared when it happens. If you enjoyed this analysis, make sure to subscribe, Leave a comment with your silver price prediction and let us know whether you believe silver is heading for a breakout or facing another major test. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.